Introductory remarks.
We are now live.
Good afternoon. This is the June 4th, 2025 meeting of the Eugene Intergovernmental Relations Committee. In attendance so far are Councilor Evans and myself. I'm Randy Groves, Councilor for Ward 8, and I'm the current chair of the IGR committee. But in the interest of time, we're expecting a few more people. But let's see if we can. And we have Councilor Ye just joining us. So
sorry.
we have our complete. No, you're great. You're a complete committee. I was just explaining, Jennifer, that we are waiting on Ethan, who had a late flight. He's going to try and join the meeting remotely from airport admin. He is the bulk of today's IGR meeting. And so I just started with opening remarks, and we're going to go on to agenda item 2, agenda review and minutes review. First of all, is there anything you have concerns about on the agenda or wish to add for both you and Greg?
Hold on, I'm trying to find my agenda. I don't think so. I saw it earlier and I don't remember any problems.
It's 5 issues: calling the meeting to order, which I've already done, agenda review, minutes review, which we're on right now, and then 2025 legislative update, and then items for committee members and go to the order and adjournment.
That sounds fantastic.
So it shouldn't be too long today. Like I said, I think the main thing is Ethan coming here and going over our current developments during the legislative session. But with that said,
Councilor?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I moved the agenda and the minutes.
Second.
We've had the motion to approve the agenda and minutes from the May 7th, 2025 meeting. Let me do it this way. Is anyone opposed to accepting that?
No.
Okay,
Nope.
It looks like we're unanimous. Agenda review and minutes have passed. I'm going to skip 2025 legislative update until Ethan can join us. Are there items for committee members and good of the order? Anything anyone wants to share?
I don't think at this time. I think we're just waiting to get the hopefully good news from Ethan.
Okay, Jennifer, do you have
Hopefully.
I don't. I talked to Ethan yesterday about rumors that were going around, but that turned out to be unsubstantiated. So that was.
We always seem to
I guess my point is Ethan is a rock star, and I appreciate him always being on top of everything.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. It just seems like the rumors are coming faster and more furious these days.
Mm-hmm.
It's just unfortunately the sign of the times.
Yeah. Yeah. It's nice to have someone you can just send a quick text to and he knows exactly what I'm talking about.
You know, the irony is I had a meeting with a couple of constituents this morning, and a lot of it was rumor control. So my word for those in the public that are listening in, if it sounds too incredible to be true, it usually is. Well, why don't we just give just a little bit of time here to see if Ethan can make it. Oh, timing is perfect. Ethan, great timing. Welcome to the meeting. Can you hear us?
Hi, everyone.
We have basically gone through the entire massive agenda with the exception of the legislative update. So if you're ready, if you could just take that away, that would be marvelous.
Certainly. Thank you, Councilor. And I do know that there's one item, I think, on the agenda that says something to the effect of items of for items of interest, and on there is a leftover in regards to the items that we discussed at the last meeting. So I just wanted to highlight that. But
okay. Well, great. Why don't you, if you don't mind, if you could start with the 2025 legislative update, and then you can just flow right into that next item because the three of us have already weighed in with really nothing to share.
Okay, sounds good. I'm gonna share my screen if I can do that.
And I just want to say for the public that's listening, Ethan, you've done a phenomenal job keeping us up to speed. I know that this is like trying to build a house on quicksand as fast as things change, but I think you've done a really good job of keeping us informed, and that is very much appreciated.
Thank you, Counselor Rose. And my apologies for the delay today. I just, I was coming back into town and my flights were delayed from last night. Just like, I'm over at the admin building at the airport. Catherine was kind enough to let me use a spot here, be able to jump on.
Thank you, Catherine, and late and delayed and canceled flights. I think it's just normal these days. So glad you could make it.
All right, and so everybody can see this is the email memo update that I sent out yesterday. And so just working through unhoused response funding, it's been a long priority. There's been a recent call in the past few days from Representative Marsh, who is the chair of the House Housing Committee, to be able to engage the legislative leadership and the budget writers to ensure that they understand the importance of the funding and the need for the policy changes and that are incorporated into House Bill 3644. And so we've had those conversations numerous times with the speaker going back over a year. So I feel like the speaker, Representative Fahey, really understands Eugene's advocacy for this, the need for it, the budgetary need, and also the practical need for the community. So my sense is that the question right now is not so much is the state going to pass the policy framework, it's more about how much money will be allocated. And so in the governor's recommended budget, as you may recall, there was a number of $217 million that was recommended. But because of the May revenue forecast was not as strong as previous ones, and there's a lot of funding requests, I think that the budget writers are currently trying to figure out what that final number is going to be. And so, City of Eugene and cities have been weighing in pretty routinely across the entire session to say 217 should be the floor. And if not, then there's the likelihood that beds could be closed and that 217 is the state's allocation. But there's more than likely from local governments, at least, 150 million to match that. And so look, the City of Eugene, we shared our budget numbers from the previous year and what was forecasted that's in the budget for that's coming on out. So we're hopeful that that quote unquote skin in the game and the local funds will help the legislature recognize that 217 is a really good investment. So any questions on that one?
No.
Okay, moving forward.
Actually, I have one.
Okay.
What do you think the likelihood is that number is going to change?
I'd say that it's a high likelihood. I mean, I would say that if it goes below, I mean, I don't know. Right now they're juggling and the budget writers are trying to figure out what they're going to do. If it's below 200, I wouldn't be surprised. If it's below 150 million, I'd be surprised.
Okay.
So
well, that gives us some parameters of a maybe. But
yeah,
I wasn't looking for you to give a over under.
Right.
Just trying to get a feel for how tentative this is.
Yeah, and what I would also just encourage us to think about is that this money, as in years past, the funding that we would request would come directly to the city, and the city would then utilize that as our funding. And where we've transitioned with this new framework, and then with, I think, the budgetary and the programmatic negotiations and discussions with Lane County, is that a bunch of activities and investments are moving on into Lane County's purview, and this new framework is allows for better alignment of where state resources are going to the statutorily defined accountable parties for housing and for shelter. So I think that whatever the number's going to be with these policy framework changes, there's a shift in how funds will flow, and ideally it'll be more efficient and effective, but we'll see. Moving forward on to number 2, seek funding for Clear Lake Road infrastructure. So we've done what we have been able to do in terms of advocating for this. This has been a Chamber of Commerce priority, and Tiffany Edwards from the Chamber and a number of local business leaders were up and advocating for this for our delegation and also the budget co-writers. And recently, I was informed that Senator Manning had this as one of his take-homes, as his priority take-home for the session, which is great. We really were looking for one of our delegation to take this on as a quote-unquote take-home priority. And I know that last week the delegation, excuse me, met to discuss the capital construction requests that were coming forward from the community. So we will continue to seek more insight, but this is now we've entered the period where the budget writers are, really behind closed doors working with legislators directly to say where are your priorities? What do you want to see funded given the limited resources? And really having a kind of coming to terms with the choices. Like this is why the priorities are like really important. This is our number one. We have somebody that's willing to take it as a take-home number one priority. So, any questions on that?
That's good. That's good news, and I have a lot of confidence in Senator Manning.
Yeah. Unfortunately, and yes, on the federal side, unfortunately, I did receive news last week from Representative Hoyle's team that said that they did not include the Clear Lake project as one of the projects that Representative Hoyle would move forward for consideration. And I had a conversation with them, and I asked why. And there was a few different conversations I had with the representative staff, including her chief of staff, and the scalability piece. I think our numbers, we had set a 1.5 million as a floor. And when we said we'd like to have 3 million, but we said 1.5 is the floor for us to quote unquote federalize a project. And at this point in time, they didn't see that as scalable enough to meet their priorities and then putting into the budget. So unfortunately, we won't see that if and when if federal earmarks are incorporated into a federal budget process. But if anybody's been listening to the news, the federal budget for this next year is currently being negotiated through the Senate.
Ethan, is anything moving forward on the Port of Coos Bay?
Councilor Groves.
Federal funding to develop the Port of Coos Bay that we've been, talking about. And I mean, we have constituents on both sides of that issue, but just curious if that's something that's moving forward or not.
I don't know this round. I know that the representative has been a strong supporter of the Port of Coos Bay's project requests in the past and has allocated earmarks in the past. I believe she has, but I know that she's been supportive of their there's a large infrastructure, a mega grant that they put forward. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a project for Port of Coos Bay within her 15. And I think I can, in next week's IGR email update, I'll have our United Front materials completed, and I'll add that what I'll be able to get her 15 projects and be able to share those as well.
I would appreciate hearing that, because I mean, when it's starting to look like it might go, I mean, that's something that I'm sure that our council is going to want to have the information on. And again, we're hearing things on both sides of this issue.
Yeah, and I think that with just for context, the earmark dollars are generally going to be in the $1 million sometimes a really big project might be up to 3 for where Representative Hoyle is. And I know that the mega project grant that they were asking for was in the multiple millions of dollars. And so that I think that whatever's coming forward, there's a long path before there's a lot of money that would be allocated to that project to then would have the impacts that that were kind of forecast to be seen. So just wanted to put that on out there in terms of time wise.
Thank you. Yeah, just trying to assess the viability of it.
Yeah. Okay, moving forward, number 3, state support increased state investment behavioral health systems. And so this is reauthorization funding for the Health Stabilization Center. And there's nothing new to update there other than that this is a priority for the delegation to be able to secure the appropriate funding. Once again, it's in a really tight budget cycle. And so will they be able to secure the full 15 million? I'm not sure, potentially. Additionally, there's a new item that in House Bill 2480, which is a behavioral health omnibus, which has got a lot of different pieces in it. There's been a supersiding component part of for land use that has been incorporated into the working amendments that have not been posted yet, but I was made aware of them, that would exempt local governments land use, some of local governments land use authorities related to the siting of residential treatment facilities as well as behavioral health centers. And so I've shared the drafts that were provided to us with our land use team and city attorney's office to understand what the impacts are as drafted, and then be able to provide feedback in terms of implementation, implementability, and also if there's any unintended consequences that we want to highlight and be able to address. So that's
Ethan, yeah, just a quick question with that. So does that is that a preemption of our local authority for zoning these facilities, or is it affirming our home rule in this? I was a little confused in how you present
it would be the former.
it.
It would
Okay,
not be preserving home rule. It would be a preemption of some local land use authorities related to the approval and siting of residential treatment facilities. And that part of the bill had been put forward last session, and League of Oregon Cities had negotiated and got the bill amended so it was implementable. And because there was some federal fair housing elements that needed to be aligned. And so that component part of the bill has been worked and has gotten cities to say, okay, we understand we need to be able to supersite a number of these residential treatment facilities in communities. Here's some safeguards, or not safeguards, but here's some standards that we would want to maintain, but also that would allow for new developments to move forward. Similarly, there's a behavioral health stabilization center or crisis stabilization center looking to adopt a supersiding component part within that larger omnibus. And so, as I said, we're reviewing and we're identifying where city council's direction has been in the past, what our policies are stating, and then coming up with what our position will be once that amendment gets dropped. So. Okay. And then number 4, support increased protections related to threats to public officials. So Senate Bill 473, this one, it was in the House. And so the last time we met, we were moving it out of the Senate. It got off the Senate floor, and it was passed unanimously in late April. And so the last time we met, this pathway within the House. And so moved into House Judiciary, had a public hearing in early of May, provided testimony, and then there were some questions that came up related to the bill in the committee hearing. And so we were working to address those. The Judiciary Chair had some issues with the bill. He and the Senate Judiciary Chair, Senator Brzezinski, were working through those. I was stopping in and talking with staff and asking to speak with the chair and also try to get more information about what was the concerns, the way that it was written. Through the course of the end of May, we worked through a number of issues, but we were not able to actually find alignment and agreement in terms of what the House Judiciary Chair wanted to change and where the city of Eugene's the original bill. And so, but that amendment was dropped the morning of the work session. The work session occurred, got the bill out of committee on the day before the statutory deadline to get it out of committee. So we were really like, all right, but with the commitment to have conversations to either conference committee it or to continue to work on it. After that deadline, and the bill was still alive, we then met with the two chairs of the House and the Senate Judiciary and talked through what the process was, what was needed. And the bill has since been was going for readings on the House chamber floor, and it was referred back to House Rules. And House Rules is a committee where there's not a statutory deadline. It's not considered a policy committee. And so there's more time to work through it up until sine die. And so our intention is to get more clarity as to how the House chair wants to, but we've also been engaging Speaker Fahey, and we'll also spend more time speaking with Majority Leader Bowman, who is the chair for the House Rules Committee. So that's in play. We think that we've got a pathway that addresses both the House chair's concerns and also the interests for the city of Eugene while we put this forward, and what Senator Brzezinski was originally supportive of. So that's where that one is. It's still being worked.
Can you share with us what the concerns were, or did you say that and I missed it?
I did not say that. And yes, I can share the concerns. Broadly speaking, there's a reticence to add new laws to the books. And there's also, I think that there's a difference in professional opinion around why the bill is needed and why couldn't you just use the existing harassment and or intimidation or stalking, excuse me, harassment or stalking statutes, laws. And so we've been working through that, and it's you know, there's more, and it's also very interesting that the various perspectives from people who have worked as a district attorney versus people who have worked as a prosecutor who work for municipalities. And so there's that legal perspective, I think, and also people on the House Judiciary Committee who have worked as public defenders. And so there's just a lot of kind of differing views related to what one would say, oh, this is a pretty cut and dry issue.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, thanks, Ethan.
You bet. Okay, number 5, secure authority for local governments to prohibit firearms in public buildings. So this one, it had public hearings and Senate Judiciary. Mayor Knudsen, on behalf of City Council, submitted testimony. I gave testimony in person. There was finally a -4 amendment that still kept cities to be able to prohibit firearms in public buildings, but there was then this amendment or revision that said for official meetings. Well, there's no statutory definition of official meetings, and so the way that LOC and other cities have interpreted that is that becomes a home rule designation as to what constitutes an official meeting. And so that bill moved on out of from the Senate side. at the end of May, and it's over in House. It's being assigned. It was read on the floor on the 2nd. It's being assigned. It may have been assigned yesterday into committee. My sense it'll probably go to rules. And then now it's where it's going to be worked. And so there's a team of us that are continuing to lobby on that bill as well. There's no updates moving just forward. There's no updates on improvements to ground emergency medical transportation, the GMT system. Once again, it's in Ways and Means. And I think in a previous CFM report, there was something like 500 bills are in Ways and Means. And so I think that Ways and Means committee members are slowly culling through or quickly culling through ones that are not going to get funding and ones that will get funding, and then starting to prioritize, okay, where do these fit and how much are we going to pay and everything else, or how much is going to be allocated to these requests of the general fund budget. So, and that usually doesn't come on out until the budget bill is dropped, and we'll see that probably in I'm thinking a week to maybe 10 days. So then continuing on with priority one bills, House Bill 2333 has now been, this was the one that was going to be focused in on task force for impacts on ballot measure 5 and 50. Yesterday, there was a public hearing work session, and I haven't been able to check and see if it got moved on out. But speaking with Representative Fahey, who's the chair for that committee, or excuse me, Representative Nathanson, she said that, you know, she wants to move something on out. And so it was this 2321, which got amended to become a study bill. And and she's committed to running a work group in the interim. Cities have committed, LLC's committed. And so we have a vehicle for the interim session that'll have legislative support and support from the Legislative Policy Research Office, Legislative Fiscal Office, to be able to put together recommendations for the next long session related to property tax reform. So that's, we're glad to see this thing moving. Are there any questions on that? Okay. 3518, this was the one that would increase the county recording fee and index the fee to inflation. This was one, if you can remember, Matt Rodriguez brought to the group and talked through, and you gave the support position. That one's still in House Revenue. I don't know if it's going to move. I think Representative Nathanson will try to move it, or at least have a work session, but it may not move at all this year, just of where we are with the with all of the different funding fees. And we're starting to run really tight on time to get anything, because at this point, even if it gets out of the House side, getting this one over on the Senate side, it might get dragged down because it's a little bit wonky, and also could be there could be pushback on the Senate side. So Senate Bill 916 is up for third reading and vote today. I'm not sure how that one came on out. I will take a look, but it continues to move forward. And so then the rest of these, there's not a lot of updates. 3031, 2138, Senate Bill 6. So 3031, 2138, they're both in Ways and Means. We're supportive of the 3031 one. I don't think that there was like $100 million that the governor wanted to allocate to this infrastructure funding. I don't think that amount's going to get put there. They might allocate a portion of that and set up the infrastructure fund within Business Oregon, which would be great, but it won't be at that level that the governor, I think, had intended it to be, just because of the state of the financial condition of the budget this next year. 2138, it's in Ways and Means. It'll probably move on out. It's got a fiscal associated with it, and so it's just getting, as I'd said previously, all these worked on. Senate Bill 6, this had a 45-day shot clock on the municipalities' review and approval of building permits. And that one's more than likely dead. It's just in Ways and Means, it's not going to move. And the reason being is that that was part of the negotiations that cities had with the proponents of Senate Bill 6 was that when we were working on Senate Bill 974, to say, let's just focus in on this piece where you're really focused on engineering review, shot clock, and also to get some changes in some land use reviews, turnaround times. And it moved out of the Senate with a lot of support, bipartisan support, and then it was basically 29-0 in the Senate. In the House, we worked a lot, we being City Lobby, worked a lot with the proponents of the bill and also the House Housing Committee members, including Representative Fragola, who was really instrumental in getting the bill amended so it's at least implementable. So that's where cities got. I don't think that there was League of Oregon Cities. There wasn't any city that came out in support of the bill, but everybody got to neutral because it was something that we could all at least implement. Beforehand, it was not written in a manner that we could actually implement. And there was a bunch of other things that just were non-starters related to local control and preemption. And then additionally, Representative Fragola also committed that once the bill is, if it makes it into law, gets through the House chamber and then gets through reconciliation and then she said that she would work with us if there were any technical amendments that we need to get made before the due dates for these new programs to be implemented, which is in June of 2026. And so during the short session, we'd have time to address any of the technical issues. So, any questions on that? So still on the balance billing for ambulance ground transportation services, that one's still in Ways and Means. We'll see where that one finally lands, but nothing right now. And then the last one's in these non-priority one bills. Not much other than Senate Bill 179, the governor signed. And so that makes permanent the landlord immunity laws, which is basically recreational immunity, which is a good thing for cities and for parks districts. 2347, which was the technical fix bill on the Middle Housing Code, Governor Kotek signed that. And then 3232, which was just a very thin local bill at our end, was that it was a change to the low income rental housing property tax exemption program, remove the date restriction for limited equity co-ops to be eligible. So East Blair Housing Co-op, when council adopted the LRPD code elements, it set, because state statute said here you can only allow from when the initial LRPD was implemented, and the East Blair Housing Co-op was created prior to when council adopted the LRPD. And so it precluded them from being able to apply for this. So this change allows for limited equity co-ops that met the requirements to be eligible for LRPD, which then allows that entity to seek out the benefits of the tax exemption for the affordable housing services they provide. So that was a win. So that's it. I'm gonna stop sharing.
And Ethan, you said you had an item well, first of all, are there any questions from committee members?
No.
Looks like there are none. Thank you. Very thorough update on that. You said you had Ethan, you said you had a issue for items for committee members in good of order.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Groves. I made a mistake on the agenda. I think in the agenda, and I haven't taken a look at it, but on the committee items of interest or from the members, there may have been leftover item from last session or last month's meeting to talk about airport federal stuff. But if that's not on the agenda, then disregard.
I didn't see it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
We're good.
2 questions, Chair. One, is on the airport. Is there basically no update on what's going on with the feds on that? I've heard a couple of different wild rumors with regard to, what's happening with the funding for the baggage claim area, and also with the third concourse. Are there any updates on that, Ethan?
Counselor Evans, thanks for the question. I think that that is going to be part of Sarah's discussion with full council on the 9th, on the work session scheduled for June 9th.
Okay.
So on 6/9, her update is focused in on federal items. And I know that I've talked a little bit with Matt Rodriguez about that. And that's what I think the intention is, to bring some awareness, evolving awareness to council related to the impacts of the federal actions.
And then the second question, and really this isn't a dog in our hunt necessarily, but any updates on the latest situation with the IMRF in Goshen? I know that that's gone to the legislature for an emergency bill or some kind of action that they want the state to take on behalf of that project. Do we
Yeah,
know
thanks.
what's going on with that, or that's something strictly in the county's deal? I know it's not our problem, not directly, but
Right. Well, I'm just going to focus my comments on what is happening legislatively. And if there's more comments, I think, or if there's more questions, then maybe the related to the technical elements, then that might be directed towards PDD staff. But so legislatively, a bill was moved forward. I don't have the number in front of me, but the county was seeking some level of supersiding authority for an energy recovery facility. And so they put forward, when we looked at it initially, city staff, it was outside of a UGB, and it was focused in on a very, very narrow type of use of land use. And so from our standpoint, it was something that we were not going to track, and because it was outside the UGB, it didn't have impact on us, on cities, and it was pretty tight in regards to the supersiding authority. And my understanding was that was to help the county be able to site the IMRF, or the clean lane facility in the Goshen area. Outside of that, any of the programmatic other elements related to the management of the solid waste system, and revenues and expenses related to the operation of whatever the kind of post collection activities that the county would be up to. I don't have any updates on that. I haven't seen anything at the legislature that's working on that, but I know that that's something that PDD staff is working with. And so if there's questions there, I'd ask you to direct them to Denny and or his teams.
okay. I appreciate that, because I know that whatever the county does will ultimately affect us in our garbage rates, particularly
Yeah,
if our
again, I'd say
garbage
that's a
rates are going.
question to talk to
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Denny
our garbage rates will probably increase over the next 5 to 6 years. So, okay, I got it, no problem.
Thank you
I
very
know who to
much.
ask.
Thank you very much. Is there anything else from Ethan or committee members to come before the IGR?
I'll just say, I think that our next meeting would be in early July, right around the 4th of July holiday. So, and will be post the close of the session. So I'll send out an email to the IGR committee prior to that with an update. My sense is that you may say, hey, we're good, because it's what's done is done. I will probably schedule with Brooke to come back in either right before council summer break or in the beginning of the fall council session to give an update. Kind of what we generally do is to show up and say, hey, here's what happened during the legislative session and for the United Front. Here's some of the outcomes for the city of Eugene, but also the community. So we'll probably have that, which could supplant the need for a July IGR committee meeting. But I just want to put that out there. And then the other piece is that the sense, so sine die, which is the legislatively mandated deadline for the legislature to finish activity, adopt a budget, and move forward. That is June 29th this year. We have a sense a number of people working, lobbyists, but also agency folks and legislative staff. There's a sense that more than likely the sine die will be around the 20th, the 19th to the 20th. And a reason for that is in the past, there's been legislative walkouts by we think historically by both parties, but of recent history by the minority party. And with new laws related to unexcused absences and a legislator's ability to run for that seat, there's 9 unexcused absences. And so you kind of do the math and you say, okay, June 29th, go back 9 days, June 20th is the deadline, or else you could potentially have a walkout if there's items that are still have not been addressed that are hard politically for either caucus to work through. And so that's kind of where everybody's working off of, is that there's likely sine dies around the 19th or the 20th. And so that's when I said, we'll see the budget in a week to 10 days. The budget bill, once it's kind of cooked, it's going to get run through. It's not going to get amended much at all, if any at all, other than line item cuts or something like that. And so that process takes a few days. And so if we're thinking the 14th, 15th of June, you're seeing that bill, it takes a few days to run through, do a public hearing, work session, and then move it through the chambers. So all that procedural stuff. So we're 2 weeks on out. It's kind of where we're thinking as the session's going to end on up. So just wanted to give you that context.
Appreciate that, Ethan. Question for my colleagues here on IGR. What do you think about folding our July meeting into just a short work session with the full council?
Sounds good to me, Chair.
Okay. Jennifer, seeing a head nod from you.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
It makes sense to me. Maybe we can get some decision-making out of the way here. How about this as a proposal that we just go ahead and do that unless something develops where you think IGR should really meet and discuss this separately from the full council? I can't imagine what that would be. It looks like we're on glide path to the runway, but at the same time, I also know things can blow up and change direction quickly. And I think we just need to be ready if we need to meet, but if not, rather than saying the same thing twice, because we'll all be at the council work session. That can be.
I agree with that, Randy. I don't think anything is major that's going to blow up in our faces over the next few weeks.
No, but every time we say nothing's going to change, there's something that will. So I think we need to remain nimble and adjust if needed, but just plan on we'll skip that. And I would suggest we have an affirmative email just to make sure we're all on the same page as we get closer. But that can save you some work too, Ethan.
Thank you, Counselor. And so what I would say we'll put into the minutes for this meeting is that the IGR committee agreed to not hold a July meeting, and also to be able to have that information be part of a council end of session work session update before the council break.
Excellent.
And then and just to make sure that I give Brooke some leeway, instead of before council break, in as early a time as feasible, given other council priorities.
Well, I just see, I mean, I can give some of this as a council report, but depending on the questions about how things unfolded, I'm not the best one to share that information. You've been
Yep.
living it.
Yeah, so, and we can do that. I just don't want us to promise it or say in our meeting minutes that it was agreed and directed to do that prior to the council break, because I need to talk to Brooke to find out what the agenda looks like before then. And so we'll just move to that and be able to get the work session scheduled as soon as possible. And then I will send out an email to the group, at least to the IGR committee, 1 week in advance just to confirm. No meeting unless we hear that you want to hold it. Okay.
That'd be more
Got
if
that.
you need direction from us, I guess, is you know, some unanticipated hiccup in the process.
Yeah. Okay.
Very good. Well, is there anything, what else to come before the June 4th, 2025 IGR meeting? I'm not seeing anything. With that, thank you all, and we are adjourned.
Thank you all.